going to go over adding a data model class to your MVC ASP.NET application. In the last video, we created a view which had a view that was designated by the controller created just a few videos ago. Now we're going to be rounding it out by adding a data model class. In order to do this, let's move over to our models folder in the navigation menu in your VS Code. Now that you're there, go ahead and create a new file named movie.cs. This CS ending designates the file as a C# file. From here, you can go ahead and copy in the code provided from the Microsoft tutorial linked in the description below. Now, this starter code is pretty important because it contains a variety of different things, including an ID field, which is required by the database or model that we are creating as a primary key. We also have a variety of other things like date times, strings, and decimals, which will be important later on. One important thing to note is that any field followed by a question mark is nullable, meaning that the property, in this case title, can be a null value. Now that this is done, we're going to need to add some packages to VS Code. In order to do this, go ahead and open your integrated terminal and type in the following commands. We're going to start by uninstalling an old version of .NET ASP code generator. To do this, start with the .NET command, use the tool suffix, and then we want to designate an uninstall of the .NET ASP code generator. Go ahead and run that, and it looks like if you can't find a manifest file, then you should be good on this step. I've already completed this tutorial, so there's no need for me to uninstall something that doesn't already exist. We will, however, need to install the new code generator, and to do that, you'll need to pass in this command, .NET tool install -g the .NET ASP code generator, and then a specific version. In this case, because we're using SDK 6.0, it'll be version 6.0.0-RC 1.214.64.1. As you can see, I've already installed it, and my command prompt says as much. The next thing to do will be to uninstall .NET EF. In order to do this, we'll use the same command that we did 2 commands ago, except instead of uninstalling .NET ASP code generator, this time we'll just uninstall .NET EF. Again, it couldn't find the manifest file because I already uninstalled this running through this tutorial previously, but in your case, you should have something that does uninstall. Just like before, we'll need to continue by installing a new version of .NET.EF. For me, you'll see that that is already installed, but for you, you'll need to use .NET tool install --global .NET EF, and then the specific version, as I mentioned before, 6.0.0 for our new .NET SDK, and then the RC listed here. Next, you'll want to add a variety of different packages. The first package that you'll start with is the Entity Core Framework Design package, currently in its pre-release version. To do this, simply type .NET add package, and then, like I said, Microsoft.entity framework core.design, and then, like I said, this will be the pre-release, so we'll need the pre-release flags attached. And after a few commands, we should have a restore on the CS project, which you should see here. We'll want to do the same thing now. Instead of with design, though, we'll use SQLite. And so if you go ahead and delete framework and replace it with SQLite, go ahead and enter that, and you should see that this does restore another CS proj. Awesome. With that down, we have 2 more packages to reinstall. Instead of an Entity Framework Core one this time, though, we'll be installing a package from Microsoft Visual Studio Web, specifically their code generation and design pre-release. In order to do that, go ahead and paste in this command here, .NET add package, and then Microsoft.visualstudio.web.codegeneration.design with the pre-release flag. With that done, we need to install just one very last NuGet package, and that is going to be another one from the Entity Framework Core, which we were using just a few minutes ago. In this case, it will be for the SQL server that we'll eventually end up using in the next video tutorial. Once that is installed, we should be good to go onto the next piece of code. Now we'll need to actually run everything that we just installed using the NuGet packages, and so we'll need quite a long command right here. This is straight from the Microsoft video tutorial, and for the sake of use and feasibility, I will go ahead and drop this in the description below as well. Go ahead and hit enter. It should build your project for you, and if we have no errors, then we should be ready to move to the next step. All right, and indeed, if we have a runtime and it found the controller, we should be good. All we need to do now is go ahead and try running this project, and you will likely see a set of errors here. They shouldn't be errors so much as warnings, but if all goes well, your new application should open perfectly fine. Awesome. Now that this is done, we'll need to conduct initial migration of our new database. In order to do this, we'll also need to use more command line applications. So to do that, let's go back to our terminal, and we'll want to migrate the initial created database. And in order to do this, we simply type in .NET EF migrations add, and then initial create. They should install in just a second. As you can see, the build is started, and it has succeeded. All right, so it looks like no DB context was found in the assembly, so we need to make sure we're using the correct assembly. In order to make sure that this is done properly, I highly recommend using the installation of .NET EF globally across your entire platform. And in order to do that, you simply type in .NET tool install, and then we use the global flag to globally install it, and we want to install .NET EF. As you can see for me, it was already installed, which is why we were able to succeed this build right here. Now that that's done, we'll need to update our current database. In order to do that, we use the .NET EF command, and we simply say database update. The build has started, and it looks like the build has succeeded. Awesome. Now we're going to go ahead and retest our application. Go ahead and press refresh in your Visual Studio Code. And again, if all goes well, you should see the MVC movie app show up, and we should have the same functionality that we've had in all of the previous videos. We can go to hello world and welcome, and we should still be able to use everything like the name tag that we did earlier. I think in this case, I'm just messing up something in the URL. There we go. I forgot that question mark right there. And we should be able to change num times as we see fit, possibly none times equals 4. Cool. And so we have all of our functionality demonstrated there. Now that that's done, we can go ahead and take a look at how to add SQL commands in our next video.